Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was released about 2 months ago, another entry in what is a juggernaut, and not just the first-person shooters, but gaming as a whole. It's very likely that almost anybody that engages in gaming at least a little bit has heard of this series. While not as popular as multiplayer, Zombies has always held a special place in my heart ever since I started my journey back in Black Ops 1. I fell in love with the cooperative aspect of the game, finding random people to chat with while navigating the treacherous landscape of the undead theater in Pentagon. Fueling the fire of this game mode, I received Black Ops 2 and have vivid memories of my best friend at the time walking over to my house and playing Transit in town before every school morning. I look fondly back on all the media I consumed about it. From a juggernaut, Olympia ray gun, Mob of the Dead Easter egg, how to build the Origin staffs. Origins alone blew me away so much back then that I even wrote down a cheat sheet on some cardboard onto how to upgrade each elemental staff. I would continue fueling this passion with World at War on the PC with custom maps, staying up late browsing UGX to see what creations the community has built, such as Cheese Cube Unlimited and the Leviathan. Starting with the release of Ghosts, however, the fire inside me began to dwindle. Extinction was a fun and a solid departure, but it lacked the overall polish in my opinion and was a struggle to ever play solo.
Advanced Warfare
Had its controversies with meta loadouts tied to RNG loot boxes on the multiplayer side. And for Exo Zombies, I didn't bother playing it after I bought DLC 1, thankfully sparing my wallet from a whole season pass. Black Ops 3, that was a return to form, and by many, the golden era. Great themes, an engaging story, my friends pestering me on the Xbox One to fill in their fourth spot to help them out with the Shadows of Evil Easter egg. But even with all of that, my interests were slowly starting to move on. Strategy games and RPGs were creeping to the forefront of my Xbox and Steam library, the occasional shooter filled with Destiny 1, and remember when Dark Souls became free for gold on the 360? I decided it was time to take a break from Call of Duty Zombies, and if I ever wanted to come back, Black Ops 3 now had custom zombies that I could try and sink my teeth into. As time went on, I peered into the state of zombies. However, things appeared to be on the decline. Infinite Warfare and World War II zombies seemed to be in an inferior mess, and Black Ops 4 no longer interested me in the narrative department, and wasn't worth the asking price in my eyes. I have since tried out Black Ops 4, and concluded my initial skepticism was correct for my taste. But I should state that the last time I truly felt the urge to hop on a public lobby to squad up for some Call of Duty was in about 2015. Ever since then, I've had a plethora of other games and genres for me to explore. So, why Black Ops 6? Well, truth be told, two good friends of mine, of which this was his first Call of Duty, had bought it at release and were begging me to get it. I told them I would wait to see if they were still playing when the game went on sale. I am a big proponent of rarely paying full price, seeing how quickly many games reduce their price from $60, let alone the $10 increase that big companies are trying to set. Don't get me wrong, $60 would have still given me a mini heart attack if it wasn't for the fact that DLC maps are free, with the inclusion of microtransactions getting their own spot on the menu. Still, in a lot of ways, I think this trade-off is somewhat fair. So when the game went on sale, Black Ops 6 was installed on my PC, and I was curious to know how the zombies had held up. This video is dedicated to this specific game mode, and while there are many other reviews out there for your entertainment, I'm sure, the realization that there may not be very many returning zombie veterans might give a fresh take on Treyarch's latest release. I do have a lot to say. Surely you've seen the length of this video, and I hope you stay to listen, whether it's while you eat or fall asleep. I'll be talking about different aspects in a somewhat descending order, going from what I really enjoy to what I wish was changed. Do keep in mind, many of these features and systems that are new to me might not be new to you, since I had skipped about 9 years of Call of Duty titles. While this list won't be in sequential order from what I enjoy most to least, there is a standout feature that I'm confident I know is my favorite: directed mode. As opposed to the traditional experience of never-ending round progression and having to look up Easter egg tutorials via YouTube or something, this mode allows anyone to have guidance with where to go and what to do, while capping off the max rounds per step to make sure that you don't make the game too hard for more inexperienced players. This means no one is locked out of experiencing content that sometimes could seem inaccessible in previous Call of Duties. Gone are the days of you guessing which rock you were supposed to shoot in Revelations and how much blow the developers must have been doing to think that it was a good idea. Consequently, this also means directed mode is a good way to farm headshots for camos and weapon XP, if that's your sort of thing. More accessibility options is rarely a negative in my eyes, and means that even complex Easter eggs aren't as daunting, which, in theory, should allow developers to have faith that their work will be seen and experienced by more players. As it stands, Treyarch allows about a month of maps being out in just their classic mode before releasing a directed guide. This keeps the Easter egg hunting Zombies fans with content and the ability to earn an exclusive calling card reward for beating the Easter egg mode before directed is released. While I personally wish the two modes were released simultaneously, I can think of a few reasons they implemented a feature like this. Besides, it didn't stop me from completing the Citadel Easter egg before directed mode was released for this video. At level 15, you're able to research and equip augments, which can modify the benefits that perks, ammo mods, and field upgrades provide. This adds a layer of depth, and also a layer of grinding, that complements the added systems on Zombies well. You have 6 options for each augmentable item, 3 major benefits and 3 minor, forcing a choice of what would be best for your playstyle and amusement. With the previous restriction on limited perks being gone, this substitutes that choice into flexibility with said perks, which I personally think is an overall net positive. Further utility with ammo mods and field upgrades also makes sure that players don't just want to choose X choice because it deals the most damage, as they differ in utility enough to warrant some pondering over what to bring. Speaking of perks, the selection here at Offer is fairly vast, and the fact that Vulture Raid has returned was a nostalgic sight from one of my favorite maps back in Black Ops 2. Each perk offered feels useful and is usually worth picking up, especially with the previously mentioned augments. Even the most situational perk, Melee Macchiato, has its time to shine on Citadel des Morts. PhD Flopper is back, along with Dolphin Diving, which, while not very practical, is always fun to mess around with. My favorite perk though this time around might just have to be Deadshot Daiquiri, due to the insane glow up it's received since Black Ops 3. Originally, this used to be a near waste of 1500 points and a perk slot by increasing your accuracy and auto-aiming to the head, the latter not even being applicable on PC. Now, after years of getting bullied and ignored by everyone, Deadshot now increases critical damage dealt in a game where headshots are incentivized heavily and bosses are absolute beefcakes with their health bars. Perks now have a consistent price, where the first costs 2500 essence.
What the hell happened to points? We have essence now?
And each subsequent perk is 500 more. Along with the change of only keeping at most 3 of your initial perks, this means players must keep in mind what perks they deem most beneficial and get them first to ensure that if they go down, they minimize how much they are affected. While keeping your perks was jarring to me at first, with the overall economy of this game, I ended up being grateful that I didn't always start from scratch, although that may be more with how expensive Tier 3 Pack-a-Punch is now. I can imagine a scenario that at the end of Black Ops 6's live service cycle, there will be so many perks that the choice between getting more perks and pack-a-punching is going to be a big struggle, and maybe that's intended. For now, I'm fairly happy with how it stands. Black Ops 6 supports a save function, allowing you to resume a solo game that ended prematurely. These saves last for a month and start you at the beginning of a round. You must be at full health to save as well, a decision to prevent players abusing getting stuck in a bad situation, I imagine. This save feature is a great addition to more casual-focused people, or those that have impromptu plans thrusted upon them by some outside influence. Did you plop down on your couch to play an exquisite match of Terminus, and 20 minutes in, your fiancé starts throwing shoes at you and yelling about how she's tired of being the only one to cook dinner, so now you gotta learn how to operate a microwave? Well, with the save function, you can come back to it later. While staring at this menu, you might have noticed you can toggle third-person mode, which, while not my cup of tea, I'm happy it's here as an option. For me, it makes the game unintentionally more difficult, unlike the Rampage Inducer, which intentionally makes the game more difficult. Turning this on will speed up the zombie spawn rate and movement speed, cranking the intensity of early rounds up to 11. The zombies already seemed fast to me, coming from Black Ops 2 and 3, so this was really just icing on the cake. Extra challenge though, if optional, is always appreciated and helps give a variety and longevity to the static maps on offer. Now, time for the middling thoughts. Let's start with the maps on offer. I realize that this section in particular will likely be the most subjective part. I haven't peered into too much community discourse, mostly to keep my own thoughts pure for the sake of this video, but I have stumbled across a couple of Liberty Balls discourse thanks to my friends. From what I recall, it seemed to do with the map aesthetics and open space design. Personally, the aesthetics don't bother me much, since we're led to believe that the game takes place very shortly after the outbreak started in this particular location. The design, on the other hand, well, the map is fairly easy. Lots of open room and zip lines that make weaving out of combat almost too easy. Besides the final fight from the Easter egg, the only challenge most sessions are just trying to exfil. Despite these points though, I find myself playing the map just as much as its contemporaries, since these points end up making it stand out and somewhat unique. The Wonder Weapon is a remix of the Jet Gun from Transit. It sucked then and, well, now it's alright. Terminus brings the darker, moodier atmosphere and is much more tight-knit. While the main facility and underground lab aren't the most unique, I wish the different islands you could visit had a bit more to explore and interact with, but perhaps I should be thankful that traversing there, whether on boat or swimming, isn't as bad as riding the bus from Transit. The Wonder Weapon here is the Beam Smasher, which is also alright. There's only so much you can do with a beam, but both Wonder Weapons are more fun since they add to the variety of the game, which we will talk about weapon variety later. The newest map at the time of this release, Citadel des Morts, has us venturing into a castle again. If I had a nickel for every time the first DLC map took place at a castle, I'd have two, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The looks of this map might just have to be the most disappointing part, only because it looks fairly bright and tame, just like Liberty Falls. I'm willing to cut some slack on the smaller release map since it serves as a foil to Terminus, but I'll express a small frown here. Besides the red hieroglyphics and the occasional zombie strung up, overall, the map looks pretty abandoned and not what I would like to see in my DLC maps, but of course, this entire thing is my opinion. I want to be filled with the urge of chanting Deus Vult while I'm slashing away with my sword in this forsaken castle or chapel, but instead I'm left thinking, man, it sure is a nice and sunny day outside. That being said, I do enjoy the perk locations being bass-ackwards though. The 4 dedicated zombie operators are moderately enjoyable to listen to, bantering amongst each other and often to the supporting cast on Terminus. I wouldn't go so far as to call them exceptional, since, let's be honest, nothing will compare to Richtofen, Nikolai, Takio, and Dempsey. They do a decent enough job as it is, though. Shoutouts, though, go to Carver, my personal favorite, as he radiates dad energy in most of his quotes.
I might have taken a little too much off the top, but that is a haircut. Never seen a remodel go so fast. Mom's kitchen took 3 months. What'd you say, Tin Top? Oh yeah, jack shit. You were asking for a beatdown. Never too old to be a bad motherfucker.
Seriously, if y'all got any shitty dad jokes or puns, feel free to leave them down below. I'm a sucker for cheesy humor. Do note that you can technically play with any operator, and at least from what I have tested, they seem to have voice lines for your standard interactions around the map. Did you notice how cluttered this screen is? Was adding a mini-map in the corner a big requested feature? Zombie health bars taking away your immersion? Coming from an MMO background, I know a thing or two about cluttering your screen, so these don't personally bother me, but I can see other people being taken aback at all of this information. While I'm not sure if I prefer it, I've left it on for most of the gameplay to not alienate the default players, but you can turn it off if you choose to do so. Sometimes I can appreciate the more bare-bones experience. Acquiring currency in this title is different to previous iterations of zombies, where there is no reward for simply damaging an enemy. Now, only the kill matters. Headshots now overtake melee as the most profitable way of culling the horde. This change values higher damaging weapons such as assault rifles and marksman rifles that have a higher critical damage modifier, although with being able to pay to refill any weapon, this isn't as big of a point as it could have been. Ammo conservation as a whole, save for tier 3 weapons and wonder weapons, is mostly a thing of the past. In addition to essence, we are now required to keep track of salvage, a new currency to spend and keep track of. This is used to upgrade your weapon's rarity and craft various equipment from workbenches found throughout each map. Is the addition of salvage, though, for the better? Does the inclusion provide more depth and variety of gameplay? I'm not entirely convinced. I haven't found myself crafting many score streaks or equipment, save for monkey bombs and the occasional chopper gunner for the Terminus Easter egg. You can collect score streaks from special and elite enemies already, and monkey bombs seem to work just fine in previous Call of Duty titles. This doesn't solve salvage being used for upgrading your rarity, which I suppose we can get into rarities with perhaps my first negative that I personally have with Black Ops 6.
Weapon rarity is an upgrade system that increases the weapon damage and maximum number of attachments your gun can have equipped before you have zombie builds. Don't get this confused with Pack-a-Punch though, an upgrade system that increases your weapon damage and maximum ammo count. While similar in nature, Pack-a-Punch requires essence and increasing your rarity requires salvage. Having two separate avenues that accomplish very similar tasks just adds complexity for the sake of making it more complex in my eyes. Perks can increase your lethality as well, but they are far more unique in effect and are also tied to the character themselves, not the weapon you're using. Before you get zombie builds, random attachments are something that can work in theory, but on some weapons are very annoying to deal with. This wall buy has a chance to give me fast mags on this LMG, which is something very appreciated, or maybe it will just add a barrel attachment. Fishing for these attachments can drain your essence, which you will need a lot of, being Pack-a-Punch Tier 3 costs 30,000 essence alone, not to mention all those cool fun perks in the Der Wonder Fizz and counting as time goes on. Zombie builds, as I've been mentioning, allow you to save loadouts so you ensure you have the same attachment on your gun every time, alleviating the situation. But let's say the developers wanted some randomness in their guns. Why not have salvage be what's used for attachments instead of rarity? That way, players can customize if they prefer a long barrel over a suppressor on their newly acquired gun and leave flat damage upgrades to Pack-a-Punch with enemy health values toned down to compensate for the reduction in firepower. I believe that random attachments can potentially increase weapon variety with the lack of unique guns we've been given in this game mode. Another issue I want to bring up. Nearly all of the guns have been tied to multiplayer with weapon XP to incentivize leveling up your character level in Battle Pass. So, unless it's a wonder weapon, you aren't seeing anything out of the ordinary for firepower. There was a real charm in seeing weapons like the Galil, the RPD, the M1 Garand, and the Tommy gun in previous Call of Duty since they were exclusive to that game mode and made those guns feel a bit special. A change of pace if you were into multiplayer, and even a sense of nostalgia since they were typically remixes or straight ports from CODs prior. Not here. Enjoy your 2 shotguns, chump. They did add a 3rd shotgun halfway through Season 1, but new releases are spaced out in challenges to not oversaturate the multiplayer experience too fast. This issue I have is systemic for multiplayer and zombies now sharing XP with each other. If you just added new and interesting weapons that weren't part of multiplayer, players may feel uninterested in using them, as they don't provide weapon XP to level up their character. To some, this wouldn't matter, but this may be counterintuitive to the developers as they make money hoping you buy their battle pass, which increases in worth as you level it up. Many players will wait until they've completed said battle pass before purchasing it as a sort of insurance policy, and it's been well documented that after a consumer makes their first purchase of a microtransaction, they're more likely to continue paying more. It's that very first hurdle that developers have to jump through. Why do you think there's so many new player or value bundles in games? You could add them just to loadouts for zombies, but now you're looking at potential content away from the multiplayer folks. Either way, It's something I can attempt to be hopeful with as a live service game, but more variety with how someone is going about killing zombies should always be explored in a game such as this. People will have favorites for sure, but you don't want players getting tired of seeing the same guns over and over again across the different game modes. With a lack of weapon diversity also comes a lack of weapon quantity that you can hold at once. Where is Mule Kick? No, seriously, where is Mule Kick? It was never a great perk to justify grabbing over others, but its disappearance has left me a bit disappointed. Speaking of disappearances, what happened to our shiny glass bottles ubiquitous of any drink out there? Now, every perk looks like it's a soda can or a cheap beer that innately lets you find your car keys. Have you ever seen an eggnog, like Juggernog, come in one of these cans? No? Yeah, me neither, but don't spend too long thinking about it since the game only allows you to be paused for 15 minutes in solo play. Answering your phone? Nope. A child walking up from their nap and bothering you? Nuh-uh. Gotta take a poop? Sorry, bud. There is a save function I mentioned previously which limits the frustration this has, but this feels like more of a band-aid fix instead of a proper solution, or, I don't know, allow us to play offline? It feels as if offline games are becoming rarer features shipped with multiplayer games today. Not everyone is privy to having consistently excellent internet, so why not allow players to take their fun off the grid? The developers claim it's for continuous streaming assets, which should be a feature you can opt out of. Perhaps it's an excuse to show you the battle pass and bundles. A deterrent to cheating and piracy, you say? Being in the PC gaming sphere for quite some time, believe me, people will find a way. Unfortunately, this is a problem plaguing gaming at large, not just the Call of Duty series. While some would consider this criticism futile, I will still try and voice my dissent. So, overall, how do I feel about this iteration of Zombies as a returning player? Perhaps it's because I've been away for so long, or maybe it's just I'm not as harsh as others, but I've enjoyed my time playing this game. The release of this video does not mark the end of my playtime on this game, considering the premise of this video is what finally pushed me to try my hand at YouTube in the first place. I'm optimistic for Treyarch's future maps and hope to have the drive to sink many more hours into each release. Do I like this more than the Zombies before? No. But not because it's worse, but because it is different. Older Zombies will always hold a special place in my heart, and while I don't believe this will ever dethrone those titles, maybe, just maybe, it can stand on the same pedestal if this mode receives the love it deserves. I hope you enjoyed listening to my venture into this game mode, and if you have any critiques, suggestions, or comments of any kind, feel free to let your voice be heard. Thank you to everyone who stayed until the end. Bye-bye.